Welcome back to Mindful Matters Podcast, episode 12, I believe. We are already up to episode 12 or even 13. I don't know. Time just continues to fly by. When you're having fun like this, when you're having such fun that you just light up in the morning, hey, today we're recording a podcast. It's always going to be a lot of fun, Richard. So I love to have you here, and I love to have our listeners and viewers here to join us. Welcome back. It's good to have you. It's always fun to come and talk about the things that interest us and finding new ways on how we can put our mind in the right mindset and see how things are going to work out. Welcome. I'm Oresztesz, your anxiety coach. You can find me on Less Anxiety Today YouTube channel and website, which is lessanxietytoday.com. I look forward to having you there and possibly helping you out. And I am here today, yet again, with an amazing co-host, Richard Haggerty. Richard Haggerty, coach of coaches, fantastic guy, fantastic coach, fantastic friend, and always with great insights, lots of research and fun and interesting concepts that he finds all over the world. Richard, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Oresztesz. Thank you. Well, welcome. It's lovely to see you, and happy 2023 to all our viewers, any listeners, because this is this is a great opportunity for us to start to bring to bear our joy and what we want to have happen. And I'm thrilled to be here, Oresztesz, and I cannot wait to dive in with you again. So thank you for hosting. And this feels like a wonderful place to begin considering how to make this year even better, even more of what happened before. What do you reckon?
Absolutely. I mean, we have been talking about many different ways in which any person can find a way of focusing, appreciating what you have already been successful at, and how to focus on new goals and how to make sure that you get there, that those goals are inspiring. If you missed any of that, go back to last week's to the last episode or the last two episodes and make sure that you check those out, because there is some more great information waiting for you there that is going to continue to stay relevant. It does not have to be the end of the year to apply the things that we talk about there. It can be any date. Go with the Chinese New Year. Go with whatever Byzantine calendar, if that's what is the time of year for you, or just make up your own calendar. Make whatever day you're listening to this your first day of the rest of your life. You know, the classic line. But it can be very powerful anytime you choose to take action with the right mindset.
Yeah, definitely. And that's great. And I think that mindset is probably worthwhile us kind of looking at today, how we can do that, how we can begin to influence our mindset, because that's really what we want to be able to do throughout. You know, it's all very well to have some outcomes. It's good to be inspired by them. But what if you could influence yourself to stay really positive, optimistic, like a little voice inside your head that says, come on, you're doing okay. You can do it.
That sounds very intriguing, Richard. I seem to get a sense that you are hinting at something that could be very useful if we shared with our audience.
Well, Oresztesz, it is funny that you should say that. It's funny that you should say that, because I actually today had a kind of a preview of something that sort of happens a little bit spontaneously for me, but which I realise probably is useful for our listeners, which was something came up for me, and there were a few things going on, and I was not, shall we say, in the most focused place to go and take some action. But the interesting thing happened that as I recognized it, a little kind of part of me said, hold on a minute, you're feeling this way now. That's okay. What would happen if you just sat with it for a little while? The last time you had this, you did this, you sat with it for a little while, you sat with any discomfort for a minute, and eventually you got very clear about what you were going to do. And if you just remember that feeling of sitting with it and the sense of clarity that started coming through, you moved through this experience really, really quickly. Wonder what would happen if you did that now. And as I sat there for a minute, I thought, that seems like a really good idea. I really like what this person's saying to me. It's just, somehow it really rings true. And so I sat there for a minute. And all of a sudden I had this idea of exactly how to reconnect with the things that I have coming up. And I jotted a couple of ideas down. I've had a really, really wonderful day. And that particular process is a really straightforward and simple one that our listeners, our viewers can learn for themselves, where you start to coach yourself, where you start to talk to yourself in the way that you need to talk to. And this is really important because honestly, the best person on the best day, in a certain way, in the right way to talk to you is you. Because you kind of understand yourself in a way that no one else does, because you've been with yourself for a long time.
You most certainly have. Now, it still, as a coach, as a therapist, as someone that has helped many, many people really remember their strengths, remember their capabilities, and focus on themselves, it is also, I don't stop being a human being myself. So even though, of course, we are talking about all of these powerful techniques, but I keep messing up. I also, as a human being, I keep stumbling into the same mistakes that I have helped others overcome and be really successful and very and powerfully motivated with. So it's very interesting because there is also an empathy, and at the same time you get to know what to do with these situations. So it does help to know. Even though I highly recommend that's of course where I make a living. I do recommend that you reach out to someone that already knows its way around. For some reason, it's the metaphor in my mind is the maze. It's like someone that has solved hundreds of puzzles involving mazes. They might not know exactly yours, but they have an instinct on how to guide you. They can help you through that. But as soon as you start finding a way out, it's also important, an important thing to know that you can also develop your own strategies. If you are in a maze, if you were to just reach out, touch one of the walls, and never let go of it as you walk, eventually you will end up at the exit of that maze. Just a little interesting thing. As long as you just follow one wall, just go all around. As long as you don't let go of that one wall, mentally or physically, eventually you will find your way out. Also, if you begin to notice and begin to be aware of what are the things that you have done that are working, what are the things that you have done that are not working very well, those are things that you can start doing. So these strategies can be very, very powerful. Richard, it's almost as if you have a process in mind that can help someone that begins to notice some kind of the type of thoughts that are not very helpful,
Mm.
that are not guiding them towards the kind of action that they want to take. And then it almost sounds like you have an idea of what could be a simple process that may not be simple to carry out,
Mm.
simple enough to remember and to return your attention towards something that you can control, which is a simple process that you can do.
Yes, absolutely.
Am I completely crazy here to think that you might have something like that in mind?
No, I think I think you got some really good instincts there, Oresztesz. I like where I like where you're headed. And honestly, this is. Let me just tell you, and I will take this, but I want to share how powerful this is. This basically using this process that we'll do in a minute. I've used it to help somebody who had a fear of being in enclosed spaces. And it was so strong that they were coming up to a cave tour. So basically, we're going to go inside a cave, and they were able to have a conversation inside with themselves, going, "Okay, is this okay? How long am I going to be in there for? And even to talk themselves through the process of, okay, when I go in there, I can stay at the back and I can have a conversation with the guide. I can ask the guide how I'm going to be." Or how long it is, and just like what the layout is there. I can start to become fascinated with the different types of rock that are in there, the stalactites, the stalagmites, the different formations in there. And they were able to have that conversation with themselves in a couple of minutes and get curious enough to just ask if they could go inside just for the first little bit and take a look around and recognize that they're okay and be able to reassure themselves and say, everything's okay, you're doing fine. Hey, look, it's your choice. Would you be interested? Is this something you're fascinated enough to continue and explore? And they went round, they enjoyed it, they enjoyed the process, they had zero fear and zero anxiety. And the beautiful thing is that process happens automatically for them. When something challenging comes up, they know they can say to themselves, hey, I recognize this is going on. What do you want to do about it? And that's the beautiful thing for this. So for this, Oresztesz, I'll ask you to pick something maybe where there's a small, it could be something where there's a little challenge, or it could be something where actually you'd like to just be more consistent in the kind of response that you have, or it's working well for you and you just like it to be really, really efficient for you. Okay, and you can say what it is, but it really doesn't matter too much for the process here whether you say that specifically. So I'll leave that to you.
So well, it's really strange because the situation with the cave, it's very interesting because we have talked about the effect of priming, which is just whatever you're talking about, your mind is kind of inevitably going to go there. It's very interesting because in one of our little adventures here in where I live in Mexico, we went on a cave tour, and our guide asked us something very interesting, which was, would you like to have the experience of going through what we call here the birth canal?
Right.
Inside the cave. Now, of course, excited, having fun, let's go on an adventure, whatever. Yeah, sure, let's go, let's do it. He said, there are three layers of the experience. You can do something really extreme, which we said no to, our first cave adventure. There is the mild one, and there is like the walk in the park. So eventually we can talk about how we have a tendency to choose the one in the middle anyway. So this little experience turned out to be something quite intense for some of us. It's basically squeezing through a very tight section of the cave, so tight, in fact, that the adults, like myself and my father, if you were to feel a little stressed and start to breathe in and try to find your strength and ability, you will get stuck. So you actually had to calm down
Mm.
and feel safe enough to exhale most of the air. And you had to just reach forward, and you couldn't even push or anything. There was no space for you to do any of that. Just really slowly crawl through with deep exhales. My dad actually got stuck there for like 5 minutes, and the guide eventually said, "Yeah, well, yeah, sometimes people get stuck. Yeah, eventually they calm down. Sometimes it takes an hour." Oh my god!
Excellent. Well,
I mean,
exactly. So,
my dad was having nightmares about the 5 minute experience, and
mm,
yeah, so interesting things. So yeah, for some reason that event, that moment came to mind, but that also at the same time would be a very nice representation of where I would like to apply this skill. If
mm,
you're willing to do a bit of a demonstration with me,
sure, sure,
would be like
sure.
in a situation where my mind knows that there is no reason for strong emotion, and I know what the steps are to take.
Mhm, mhm.
Exhale, small movements, let go. Or even if I cannot fully let go, at
Yeah,
least I can exhale. Even if
beautiful.
I cannot calm my heartbeat down, even if I cannot stop the thoughts racing through my mind, just
Yes,
imagining myself in that same spot, I can
yep,
feel the emotion coming up. And I would
got
love
it.
to have a little bit of practice. Like if I ever were to find myself in a situation similar,
Wonderful,
that would be a fantastic.
wonderful, wonderful. Well, excellent. So, not rehearsed at all. So wonderful. There we go. The cave metaphor came up. My spies in Mexico were correct when they came back and said that you had indeed been stuck in a cave. No, and that's great. So here's what I invite you to do, Oresztesz. When you're ready, just comfortably close your eyes. And you know how to relax those eyelids. Just relax them to the point where they're just so happy to stay relaxed and closed that they just don't want to open. And when you know that they're that relaxed and you're comfortable with that, using your wonderful powers of imagination and concentration, go to give them a little test. And a little bit more, and then just let go. And let that relaxation continue to increase as it works its way all the way through your body. And just take a moment to remember that inner smile. When you see yourself in front with a big, comfortable smile on your face, your eyes lit up and sparkling, and you remember that experience inside, something positive. Now, you could just imagine panning back, almost like a camera panning back, to the point where you see yourself in front of you. And you can imagine and conceive of yourself in front of you. Perhaps in a situation, a certain situation coming up. And as you're back here, seeing the you over there, as you see the other you notice something starting to happen in him as you're here, calm and relaxed. Over there, something's starting to happen inside him. Something inside his mind happens too. And maybe he's saying, I'm feeling calm. I can do this. Maybe he's saying, you're okay. You can relax. Everything's okay. I don't know exactly the kinds of things he's saying to himself. But as you observe over there, you start to get a sense of the things he's saying to himself. You're fine. You got this. Your breathing is calm. You're safe. And when you see without any shadow of a doubt that confidence inside him and that calm as a result of what he's saying to himself is there, happening. Step inside his body for a moment. And notice what happens inside your mind as you say those things. And talk to yourself in that same way. Try it on for yourself. Make any other adjustments. And then take a step back out when you're ready. Knowing that you've learnt what you've learnt here. And seeing him over there. And if you want, and you feel ready, you can observe him going in and comfortably relaxed, going into that scenario. Observe the way that he uses this skill to tell himself. The tone of voice. The volume. Even the language that he uses to talk to you. Notice how much calmer he is. You calm now. When the learnings and the lessons feel right and fully, you can bring them back inside you now. And know that anytime you want to, you can notice any trigger inside you that you're feeling can lead you with curiosity to say, oh, I noticed this. I see what's happening. And to carry on, to give yourself a gentle pep talk, or whatever kind of pep talk is the right one for you. And maybe you'll use this skill now to let yourself know, this works for me. I can use this skill whenever I need. You know what? I trust that this is going to be there when I need it. And test that out for yourself now. That's right. Know that you can trust. Now, and when you're ready, in your own time, you just comfortably open your eyes and come on back.
This was very interesting. The kind of going back to that situation with this different kind of attitude and different kind of paying attention, it all became so much more empowered. It's very interesting because I have to repeat, the experience was to be in a spot where I couldn't even turn my head upwards. I was laying down and I had to keep my head sideways. Really tiny spot. I hope you are not claustrophobic and you're not imagining all of this too clearly, because that would be one of the situations that is kind of uncomfortable for someone that dislikes these experiences. Fortunately, I'm not one of them. But there were a lot of the internal alarms saying, this is not a common situation. I do not have full freedom of movement that I'm used to. And inside all of that, like alarms going off, as I'm showing it right now, it was fortunately far enough away, and I was protected enough through this exercise with the kind of knowledge that was a sound of reason, that fortunately was wise enough to acknowledge these sounds. It's not trying to reject them so they don't get more desperate. The emotional response going off, like, hey, this could be dangerous. Hey, this is not normal. Hey, this, what's going on? This is unknown. And at the same time, going back to myself and saying, hey, you know what? Everybody's made it through. Mm-hmm. Everybody's been through here before. Actually, one of the other people in the group was quite chubby. I'm like, okay, just allowing myself to access that information is saying, you know what, if they made it through, I should be fine. Our guide was also shorter than me, but again, a little bit more, full bodied, or I don't know how to say that. And just allowing myself to focus on the current information in my mind. That it's okay, I can do this. If others could do it, that means at the very least that I can do it, if not do it better than some of them.
Lovely.
So that was a very nice way to redirect my attention. Richard, I have a quick question. If our listeners want to repeat this on their own, what would be the steps that they want to hit in this process?
Yeah, so the simplest thing is, remember, we want to build upon success and want to build on what's working for you. So even though we did this with something a little bit challenging, I would start off with something where you want, first of all, you want to experience maybe a little bit more motivation, maybe a bit more enthusiasm, or a bit more happiness, or a little bit more joy. Okay, so pick something small and fun. That will be good, because then you can just enjoy the experience. And the easiest way to think about this is, there will be a signal, there'll be something that you feel when you maybe are, say, a little bit bored or feel a little bit of discomfort. That will always be your starting point for imagining. So the trick with this is, we'll pick something small that you want to enjoy more of. Mm-hmm. Secondly, we're going to make sure that you feel good. So just imagine seeing yourself in the mirror smiling. Even if you want, stand in front of the mirror and see yourself smiling, and stay in that for 10 or 20 seconds. That will just condition you. You can look with your eyes open, then you can close your eyes if you want to do this experience. But it'd be very useful just to get yourself into this state. Okay.
And for interrupting.
Yes.
Just a tiny bit of additional information here, which is, it's more important that you hit the essence of these steps than for you to go through all of them, but not doing what they are meant to do. So if all you need to do, and especially with the smile, if all you do is just find that smile on the inside, and it takes you 2 minutes instead of 20 seconds, it's more important that you give yourself the opportunity to connect even remotely to a possible version of you that may be able to smile, instead of just rushing through the steps and like 20 seconds of kind of not even really believing and be a smile on your face. Hey, I've done my 20 seconds, let's move on. So it's more important to capture the essence of these steps than to rush through them. I'm sorry for the interruption.
No, that's great. So what I'll do is, I'll give you the 2-step process. Then I'll outline the slightly longer one that we've done there. But it's a very good point, Oresztesz, and I think it's really important, because if you become a slave to having to do those, the only reason to do them is to get yourself to be able to do the 2-step process. The essence of which is this: 1, you say to yourself, oh, I see what's going on here. And 2, you start saying the kind of soothing, comforting things, or even can on occasion be more upbeat that you need to. For some people, they might say, you're okay, come on, push through this. So some people like to hear that. Some people just would prefer a softer, gentler voice of, you're okay, you're calm. And they may want to vary that a little bit. So the two steps are recognizing something is happening, and it kind of implies that you're able to take a step back. That's why we have that kind of like process. That's why we did a little bit at the beginning, where you can see yourself smiling and imagine panning back, just as though you can see a version of yourself going through that process first, okay? Because we learn by modeling other people unconsciously. It's where our parents pick up a lot of mannerisms from our parents, and we see this in children. So if you can see a version of yourself saying, you know what, okay, I see what's going on here, and giving yourself the kind of suggestions, like, you're going to be okay, you can do this, you're a resourceful person. I really liked the suggestion that you've got, you know, like my the person I told you about, my client, had this kind of wonderful self-talk inside their mind going, you know what, a little bit like you did. Oh, I saw families in the restaurant outside the edge of the cave, like with old grandmas and little children who were 6 or 7. And I read in the brochure that since this opened in 1880 in England, 6 million people have been to this cave. Right? Chances are I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. And so feeding in, if you're the kind of person who likes to have some, to tell yourself, oh, those people are fine, I'm going to be fine. Any of that kind of internal logic, it can be one thing you say, it can be a number of things you say, but it is remembering to give yourself that suggestion. So the simple version is just recognize something's happening, a feeling, and give yourself the suggestions. But just as a way to learn this process, it can be very useful to just add a little step in where you imagine that there's a double of you there, or imagine that it's like a video or a film, a little movie, and you can see yourself there having the experience first of all. And then when that experience looks like, oh, you know what, that's the experience I'd like to have. You can imagine like you're watching one of your favorite films or reading a favorite book, that now you step into it and you become that person. And that's really the essence of it, Oresztesz. It's really simple, it's really easy, and when you do this a number of times, what happens is one day something crops up and you're feeling something inside, and you don't know when it is. Something comes up and something's about to happen, a kind of slightly, maybe could be a little bit of discomfort. And it feels like it's coming up, and a part of you will just say, hold on a minute, I see what's happening here. And it's such a wonderful thing when you can, I can't describe, beyond the obvious ability of being able to go in situations like you described or many other ones, just being able to capture that and know that, you know what, this works. I can do this. I can positively influence the way that I'm feeling. And for anyone out there who wants to overcome anxiety, panic, worry, deal with stress or motivation, or even just experience more joy in their life, this is a really this can be a really useful adjunct. But as we said, start with something small, start with something benign, start with something positive, and then you can build up from this and do it and have the experience in 1 or 2 minutes.
Absolutely. And of course, you can go for something bigger, but I do have to let you know that, Richard and I have a very good connection. I trust him with his level of skill, and I have trained also my own mind to practice going through these experiences. So feel free to find your level of comfort. If you have done affirmations, meditations for a long time, you might go for a more advanced level of this. Bring in your skill of equanimity, your practice of mindfulness, whatever can help you. to do this easier. But it's also perfectly fine if you start with the tiniest thing where you just notice what is happening. Then you tell yourself that you can do this and focus on your strength and allow your mind to surprise you with things like like Richard's clients that he shared, or myself. Just, hey, you know what? And it happened to be the same thing. Hey, others have done this. Probably I can do this just as well as anyone else. Or it can be something completely different, like remembering, hey, you know what? I've done that thing that was so much more difficult, and I've overcome that. You can remember your strength all of a sudden. You can connect to your ability that even if it doesn't work out, you have recovered in the past. Even if it was, not the ideal outcome, you didn't make it all the way to the end. Then just remember, hey, you know what? Then I got back up there and dealt with it the second time, which interestingly, right this time can help you go through it with much more ease. So absolutely, just enjoy this technique. It's a lot of fun. It will help you gain much more control of your life, and I hope you will take yet again something valuable, something easy to apply with yourself, so that you can have more fun and more clarity in how you deal with the challenges of every day.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Oresztesz.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. I look forward to seeing you on our next episode. And I hope you have a fantastic year. Make sure that you look Richard up and find him on Twitter, and and all the other places that you will find in the show notes. You can also find me on lessanxietytoday.com and Less Anxiety Today on this same YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you like this video, and share it if you feel like someone else could benefit from using techniques like this to gain control in somewhat difficult moments of their emotions and be able to focus on going forward. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a fantastic time. See you on the next video.